Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode
54
of The Mayor and I, with me, Lindsay Khan, and the very honourable Nick Buckley. I forgot your name for a minute.
I don't blame you, I can't get any of this technology working.
Mayoral candidate, technology expert extraordinaire, based on the last hour we spent, half an hour trying to, welcome Nick, welcome. Sorry, I'm a bit bamboozled because we're doing it on a different day, we're doing it at a different time, and we've just had 20 minutes of chaos with the technology.
And we still can't get the technology working, we're back down to one mic.
So I think, what we do here is we talk about things that have been in the news recently and have interested me. I come and ask you questions about things that you have no prior knowledge of, and see how you go on that. It's been a long week actually, because it's a week and 3 days since we last met, and two remarkable things happened last week. The first one you and I were at together, which was Man United beating Leicester 3-0, by far the most important one. And you, I know you're quite punctual, aren't you? You like to be punctual.
I tried to be.
But you were 5 minutes late.
I was like 8 minutes late or something.
You were 8 minutes late, and I could tell you were distressed to be late. So we met up and then we drove to the match together. Yeah. But the reason you were late is because you let your wife drive. Now, yes. the reason I'm interested in this is because it's an interesting psychological thing, isn't it? When we ask our wife to give us a lift somewhere, for whatever reason, whether it's because we're going to be drinking or whatever, you drop us off at somewhere where there's no parking or whatever. For some reason, despite the fact you and I both normally drive when we're with our wife, because that's always the fastest methodology. Yeah. Whenever you ask them to give you a lift, you let them drive. It's a very strange idea, isn't it?
I didn't realise what I'd done until you mentioned it to me. And yes. I said to myself, why the hell did I not drive to get here? Because we're driving down the road, and 2 miles down the road, you can see the light is on green. So she slows down in case it might turn to red. It's like, just go through the light. And then we're in the left-hand lane, and a million cars are going past us on the outside lane. I'm saying to her, why are we not in that lane? Or that lane might be turning soon. And it's like, well, those 79 million cars didn't turn, did they? And then I'm having to shut up, thinking, this is like 10 miles away. She's giving me a lift for 10 miles and then picking me up. So I can't be too insulting.
Correct.
And too ungrateful.
Yes, otherwise you will get picked up.
Yes, yeah. I should have just drove there and she could have...
Correct, yeah. It's interesting though, psychologically, because I do exactly the same thing when I ask my wife to take me somewhere. I let her drive, and then I just get very frustrated on the way. So I just thought it was an interesting psychological thing. Anyway, we went to the match. We had a great time.
Well, I realised going to the match with her that she drives slow enough to drive Miss Daisy.
Let's just hope you're not watching this one. I won't watch you. And the second major event, which I believe really only happened because you and I were wearing MAGA hats in the last... you're not going to put your MAGA hat. I haven't brought mine. We're wearing MAGA.
We were wearing these last couple of episodes.
Yes.
It pushed him over the line.
And that's what we think. The sheer volume of people who watched this were swayed to vote for Trump.
I don't think it was the numbers who watched this. I think because we're both English men, that has a big impact in America. Because they look at us and go, they're our superiors.
Correct.
Therefore, if they're voting for Trump and they know everything, I think that's what did it.
Remarkably, in the post-election coverage, I didn't see anything about us, though, in that.
I told him to keep it quiet because we didn't want to, take away his victory.
So I think you and I know this is old news now, but quite a lot's happened in the week since Trump has won, and I kind of wanted to talk through a few of those things. But what I think one of the most amazing things was the sheer volume by how much he won, and he won every single swing state, and he also won for the first time since the 70s the popular vote, which means that more people voted for Trump than voted. Sorry, more people voted for the Republicans than voted for the Democrats. First time this has happened for a long time.
Because normally you can win and become president, and your opponent got more votes than
correct.
You just won more states.
Yes,
and
correct.
That's why you become president.
And recently the Republicans have tended to win more states when they win, but not the popular vote. So it was a resounding victory.
He won everything. He won the popular vote, he won the presidency, he won the House, and he won the Senate.
Yeah.
And he won all 7 swing states.
Yes.
There's no way now you can say he's not the choice of the American people. He won everything.
Why do you think the polls in America were so wrong?
It's why the polls are always wrong. It's because a lot of it's wishful thinking. They want the polls to be right. The people they're more likely to speak to will be on the left of politics. Trump also has that effect where people who will vote for Trump, not all of them want to admit they're voting for Trump. There is still a little bit of a social shame to say I'm voting right wing, I'm voting for Trump, I'm voting for Thatcher, I'm voting for Brexit, because people don't want to be looked down upon, even though they know in the sanctuary of the polling booth they're going to vote that way anyway. And it's been well known for many decades that when you're being interviewed about who you're voting for, lots of people lie. They lie for different reasons. They lie. Some people lie because I'm going to give you the answer I think you want me to give you. Other people lie because I feel a bit ashamed voting this way, so I'll tell you the good guy and I'm not voting for them. Other people think to themselves, none of your business, so I'm going to tell you something anyway. And there's lots of reasons why people lie to pollsters. And also, because it was the core base of Trump who were average working class people, how do you contact them? They're not like me, stuck on Twitter every day, online all the time.
They're out working.
These people have got proper jobs, they're doing proper work. No one has a house phone anymore now. They rely on social media, email, doing online polling, the people they've got phone numbers for. Most working people don't have house phones anymore. So there's lots of things that go against it. And every time we get one of these wrong results, the pollsters all go, we need to change the way we do it. And they all say, we've changed now. We've taken all that on board and our predictions now will be almost perfect.
Yeah.
And what happens?
It's
They're all wrong again.
Yeah, but this was spectacularly wrong, I think. I think more so. I mean, there was. I was just playing it whilst I was waiting for you to fix the microphone, but Scott Jennings, who sits on a panel on CNN, which is notoriously democratic and supports it, made a really. I mean, I would recommend if you can track it down. Scott Jennings
and all his panel colleagues all shut up and just listen.
And literally, while he spoke, his 4 colleagues on CNN just sat in silence looking at him. And what he basically said is, this is a mandate now, a mandate for Trump to fix inflation, to fix the economy, to stop the wars, foreign wars, to make people feel safe again. And he went on for a while about, he said, this is the revenge of the regular old working class American. That's what he said. But then at the end, he said something which I thought was interesting, which was, we the mainstream media basically now need to look at ourselves because we've been wrong. He said, we've been sitting here on this panel for 4 weeks saying how, because what's the guy called, Waltz said this, they're going to win, and because we're getting the support of Beyonce, and it's it's basically fantasy, and we had no idea what was actually happening. And he said, we need to look at ourselves. What do you think is going to happen, Nick, to the mainstream media in America now? Because we now have 4 years of a dominant Republican force in place now, controlling the country, both I think he now has controlled the Senate and the House. So I think that's happened now. What is going to happen to the mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, all these major political media organisations?
Well, both those organisations have just lost millions from the stock exchange. Their viewership, their key programmes in the evening, most of them have, over the last week, their viewing has dropped by half. So I don't know what's going to happen to them. They either start reflecting the American people, in which case they may survive, or they keep going down this left-wing rabbit hole and will still attract viewers because there's people already down that hole, But is there enough people down that hole to keep these businesses afloat? And I would say there's probably not. I heard something the other day that Elon Musk may be interested in buying CNN.
Oh, really?
$3 billion.
Well, that's interesting.
Not saying he's going to, but he's a rumour.
That's
online.
peanuts for him, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, he's lost 25 million buying Twitter.
25 billion.
25 billion. I knew he was going to lose that straight away.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. The liberal, I mean, we call them the liberal elite, but even they're in different sections. So some of them will be kind-hearted, decent people. That's because we moved it. Kind-hearted, decent people who are left-wing by nature, but are decent. But we've also got the ones there who are ideologues, who are authoritarians. They won't give up that easy. They'll be looking at themselves going, we've got 4 years of Trump. And then we start again. And maybe we can get, we beat Trump the last time he was in power. We'll beat him again at the next election and we can overturn everything. So there's still a big fight there for Trump. There's a big fight for the American people. And there's a big fight for these organisations to stay relevant, because you can't be relevant if you're only appealing to 10-15% of the population.
I mean, I actually think now, because Trump has won the Senate and the House, he's going to overturn a lot of these kind of biased and partisan organisations in those 4 years and stop it happening. He's already said he's going to stop this political bias in social media with, like there was with Twitter, there was with Facebook for the previous elections. So I actually think what's going to happen is...
I don't think he said political bias. I think what he said was he's going to make them free speech platforms. That you can, if you are interfering in free speech, if you're vetting certain people's comments and you're barring certain people, all that needs to be open.
Yes.
Right of appeal.
Yeah.
And if you're shown to be guilty in penalising people because of their political views, the government will come down on you.
Yeah, but I think we know now for certain that both Twitter and Facebook in the last election were influenced by the government to promote pro-democratic and reduce the Republican.
4 years ago, absolutely. We saw the Twitter files that came out.
Yeah, so I think he was talking about that, saying that's got to stop. So if that stops, I think, and if people start getting the proper information, I think J.D. Vance will be in and he'll be in for 8 years after that. So I think we could be looking at a 12 or 13 year Republican term here. That's too far in the future to even contemplate. You and I will both be dead by then, but it's just how far I'm looking ahead now. We need to be careful that we don't fall into that trap of thinking we're right. Boris Johnson got an 80-seat majority. We thought he was in for 10 years. His party threw him out in 2. So Keir Starmer, 200-seat majority. I still think he might be gone by Christmas. So we just need to be careful. Things change. One thing I mentioned, I think we discussed this at the football, I thought there was a spectacular lack of grace from the Democrats, from the political Democrats, around this victory. And I think you disagreed with me. But Kamala Harris or Biden didn't congratulate Trump on the day of the victory, did they? Which I thought was really kind of poor. And then when it did come, it was very kind of mean-spirited. Biden wasn't too bad actually, but I thought it was quite mean-spirited the way they responded. Did you see that as well? And why do you think that? I didn't see that. That might have been the case. I think the most important thing was Harris admitted defeat and conceded the race. That was the important bit. So for that I give him credit. If it had been close, they wouldn't have done. But when we just said the Senate, the House, a popular vote, all this, it's like it's hard to say. That's what I meant. It was so overwhelming. I don't understand why they didn't immediately, graciously, as often happens in the UK, admit defeat. When you've spent 2 years calling your opponent Hitler, literally Hitler, a fascist, he's going. This will be the last election in this country. He'll never let us vote again. No matter if you believe that or not, 2 years of saying that, you do start to believe it deep down inside. So I wouldn't expect them to be
cordial and be gracious in defeat. The fact they admitted defeat for me was enough.
Mm. And the Democrats have now started turning on each other as well, as always happens.
Of course they do.
George Clooney, the superstar politician as we know him, is basically a thick actor.
Whose wife is a human rights lawyer.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, she's a British human rights lawyer. So George Clooney, the thick actor, he urged Biden to stand down. They're now blaming him for the failure, which is, as I say, gracious. Jimmy Kimmel, who's an idiotic chat show host, was literally in tears on his programme, which I just thought was pathetic.
Yeah, weak, pathetic man.
And then there's a whole list of celebrities who said they will leave the country.
They ain't coming here.
No, that's why they said they're coming.
I've already put it on Twitter. I'm an MBE. I've been anointed by the Queen. I told them all.
You'll be standing at the airport.
I've told them all. I've said no.
I think that's.
Do not be coming here. I'm an MBE. No, you're not coming.
I think you should wield your MBE to stop these awful celebrities coming here. But there was an Andrew Tate clip I saw. You know Andrew Tate, the kind of so-called toxic male, just a normal man basically. He went through the list saying, basically one by one, saying you can basically which I thought was absolutely hilarious, and it was a list of grotesques, these horrible people who think they have some sort of insight and can tell the American people how to vote. I mean, I think all these grubby celebrities were really shown what the reality is here, just shown how unimportant they are and how people despise being spoken to by these multi-millionaires telling them how to do and how to vote, basically.
Let me put this on record now. Not one of the famous ones that we've heard of will leave.
I agree.
Some of the B celebrities I've never heard of, some of them may leave.
Yeah.
But they're leaving for another job somewhere. But all the George Clooney's, the Robert De Niro's, the Barbara Streisands, I guarantee not one of them will leave.
I think you're right. And in fact, they'll probably have a better life under Trump.
It'll be safer, they'll pay less tax.
Correct. So it's made me laugh about these awful people. One of the things that I know you'll be upset about, liberal women in America are now going on sex strikes.
Yeah, but have you seen them? Now, is it really a sex strike when you couldn't get men to sleep with you in the first place? Is that really a sex strike?
I think that is, I mean, to be honest, without wishing to be sexist, and I'm not sure if I am being sexist, because again, I don't know what sexism is after all these years now. I've been told virtually all the videos I saw of that, of women saying they're going sex strike, they were particularly unattractive women.
Of course they were. Of course they were. And they're shaving their heads as well. There was one clip of a woman, it's a trend now, to shave your long hair, saying, I'm not having sex with men until Trump's gone. And this woman's got some clippers and she's shaving her head. That comes on every now and again, that'll be fine. She's shaving her head and she can't get it working. Bit like me with this technology.
Yes.
She's trying, and all
she related to you, Nick.
All she can get off is a couple of clumps. And then she gives up and goes, well, you know what I mean, I'm not sleeping with men. It's like, you're not sleeping with men. You can't even shave your head, you idiot. You need a man to help you shave your head. But who cares what these are just narcissistic. It's not all women by any means.
No, of course not.
Very, very small percentage of narcissistic left-wing women who think they should be running the world. And how dare they? And how sexist are they to say, I'm withholding sex from men because of this? What they're basically saying is, I'm a prostitute and I am now withdrawing my products and my services from you. They're basically saying they're prostitutes.
I suppose that's an interesting point, isn't it? Yeah. But it's something. It's basically something you can bargain with, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. That's interesting. I hadn't even thought about that side of it. If we just jump back across the pond now. So in the UK, 3 characters, and I just wonder if you give me your thoughts on how they're going to deal with Trump and things they've said about Trump, and that's Lammy. I've even forgot his name now. Is it David Lammy? I just call him Lammy in a kind of a pejorative way. Pete McFadden, who's called Trump a neo-Nazi.
No.
And Rayner, who's called him a buffoon at various times. How are they going to handle this, especially Lammy and Rayner, who were in the cabinet?
So, Lammy, who calls himself a Caribbean, well, that's nice to know. That our...
Where was he born? He was born here, wasn't he?
He was born here, but he calls himself a Caribbean.
Why does he call himself a Caribbean?
He said it many times in Parliament. As a Caribbean man, standing here...
But he was born here, wasn't he?
Even though I'm sat down.
It's a Caribbean... so he's wrong on 2 counts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
As a Caribbean man sat here in front of you, well, stood here in front of you, he was sat down.
Yeah.
Him, that's the tricky one. The other two are not so tricky. That's a tricky one. He's the foreign minister. He's going to be gone to America, has to have a good relationship with, not with Trump, but with Trump's equivalent of him. And they know he despises them. He doesn't just despise Trump, he despises all of them. He's called them neo-Nazis, fascists, sexists, rapists, criminals.
Yeah.
He has to have a good relationship with them. We need America more than America needs us. How are we going to get a trade deal? Trump now is talking about putting in tariffs on products coming into America. There's a very good chance we could get a good deal with America with no tariffs. But how do we get a good deal when he hates the people running this country who have insulted him for years and years and years? So that's a difficult one. I can foresee Trump, for several reasons, saying to Starmer, I'm in the office now, it's January now, I'm in office, I don't deal with him. Replace your foreign minister. Or we don't have any real relationship and there's no trade deal. And I want him replaced with Farage. Or replaced with someone else, but I want Farage on the table.
I don't think he'll ask to replace Farage. I think he'll say Farage is my spokesman to the UK.
Yeah,
I think that's what he's going to say.
I think he's going to do that for several reasons.
Yeah.
It'll be a major boost for Farage and Reform UK. It will show the socialists in this country that he's not for playing, and it also insults the people who have been insulting him. That, on top of some other stuff, could bring down this government. Because Starmer can either play along with this and go, yes, Mr. Trump, we'll replace him with whoever you want, Mr. Trump, and Labour backbenches go wild. You're a coward, Starmer, we're not having this, you're out. Or Starmer does the opposite. I don't think so, President Trump. I run this country, not you. Okay, Starmer, you've now got 15-20% on all imports to the UK.
Yeah.
The market in this country go crazy, interest rates go up, businesses close, recession, unemployment's already rising from a couple of days ago. That can
is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, a couple of days ago, employment rate went up from something like 3% to 3.8%.
Yeah.
Sound a lot, but that's a jump. That's a big jump.
That's a lot. That is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Half a percent on 65 million people. It's massive. Yeah.
Yeah. So that could happen. The Rayner thing, no, she's been sidelined. I read something yesterday that she's the one planning and manoeuvring to take Starmer out. That's becoming quite a story now, that she knows Starmer doesn't like her.
Yeah.
She's been given all the crap jobs. She's got nothing important to do.
Yeah.
But the unions love her, the far left love her. And from what I'm reading, she's now going to go for the top job. She wants him out.
Wow.
And then who's the other guy you mentioned?
So Pete McFadden, I think he's a junior minister, but he's basically been asked on multiple times. He called Trump a neo-Nazi, and he was asked to retract it, and he wouldn't comment on it. Basically, I mean, he's just an imbecile.
Yeah, so he hasn't retracted it.
Yeah.
But he's a junior minister. It's Lammy. Lammy's the one who Trump.
Yeah.
Well, how can I deal with him? How can I treat the UK in a much better manner than anybody else? And I've got to deal with someone who hates me, someone who calls me a racist and a Nazi.
And he's not going to waste time this time, is it? He's not going to be diplomatic Trump. He's got 4 years. He's getting old. He knows what he made mistakes last time. He's going to move fast. In fact, he's already moving fast.
And he doesn't need us.
Yeah, correct. He doesn't need us.
There's also another benefit for Trump to giving Starmer a spanking publicly, and that sends a message around the world to America's enemies. If I'm willing to treat my closest ally, Starmer, like this, what am I willing to do to you?
Well, hasn't there already been significant movement in the Middle East? Hamas said we're looking for a
peace deal. Russia said we want a peace deal.
Yes.
South Yemen has said we're going to get the Houthis under control. It's like, shit, man.
Yeah.
He gets elected, all the wars
he's not even in power yet.
Exactly.
And the stock markets have boomed in America as well, apparently.
Yeah, they have.
So when the Democrats see this, when the left wing here see this, they must think, is there something we're not getting here?
Evil capitalists, we don't care.
Yeah. Oh, right, okay, fine.
Evil capitalists, we don't care. We're going to take all that money and spread it evenly across the country. We may be poorer, but we'll be happier.
Yeah. What do you think Starmer's thinking about this win?
It's his worst outcome.
Yeah.
He either really, really doesn't care. That's why he sent people over to campaign for Harris, and he's already said that David Lammy is going nowhere. David Lammy is going to be in position for 5 years. He said that publicly when people asked him about the Trump comments. He either believes all that, or, as we suspect a little bit, he's out of his depth. He doesn't. He's a very clever man, but he doesn't understand politics, because regardless as if you support Trump or not, regardless of what you think of him, you do not pick a fight with the most powerful country in the world. You don't pick a fight with a man who weeks from now may win the election, which he's done, and he's going to be in power now in January. Why would you put yourself in a position where you may think Harris is going to win, you may look at the polls, but common sense says there's a chance he may win, and if he wins, we're going to ruin our reputation and our relationship. That's not a risk you take when you're looking after a country.
No. Yes, you're not a gambler, are you, when you're looking after our country? You shouldn't be reckless. You should be careful, prudent, and consider everything diplomatically in these. But they haven't done that, have they?
And politically, you keep out of other people's elections.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the win-win. He may wanted Harris to win, but Harris wouldn't have penalised him for keeping out of the election, because you should be keeping out of foreign people's elections.
In terms of the pundits in the UK here, we've talked about the mainstream media, but there's some particularly grotesques. Emily Maitlis, we're aware of, apparently, who was swearing when she found out that...
I think she was drunk.
Really?
She did it several times.
Shock revelation here, folks.
She was on a Channel 4 show. Boris Johnson was one of the panel, and she kept, low-level swearing.
Yeah.
But
I didn't actually watch it, because I don't watch BBC.
I saw bits of it the next day. She was saying, why should we get... Elon is batshit crazy, And the other Channel 4 host, I forgot his name now, was saying to her, can you stop swearing?
Tell her to calm down.
And then it went halfway through the show, there was a break, she didn't come back on.
Oh really? You think they sent her off? Yeah.
I think it was like, you're
not coming back here.
You're not coming back on.
Yeah.
It wasn't effing and jeffing, but it wasn't what you'd expect from a British show host on a mainstream TV channel.
Yeah, she went too far.
Yeah.
And then of course there's Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart who will do a podcast called The Rest Is Politics. And Rory Stewart, who looks like Gollum. I don't know if you know this character.
Yeah, I do.
But he got it spectacularly wrong. He was saying Kamala would win. But then afterwards I've not actually seen it, but I've heard. I don't know if you know more.
Yeah, I've seen it.
But apparently he said that the reason he got it wrong is because he was too nice. Is that so? What is going through the mind of these imbeciles?
I had time for Rory Stewart because he did several tours in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
As army officer. So anyone who can put their life on the line to serve this country deserves the benefit of the doubt. And so I had a lot of time for him. He was always one of the Lib Dems who joined the Tory party. That's what he was.
So-called Tory wets.
Exactly. Yeah. He was one of them. But yeah, he was talking a few days before the election on TV, talking about how he's placing the biggest bet you're allowed to in this country, £100,000 on Harris winning.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was saying that. I'm doing it. It's the blood. You can't. I think legally you can't place more than that at Buckley. Anyway, that's what he was saying he was doing. It's guaranteed. There's not a chance in hell Trump is winning. This isn't even a bet. This is a sure thing. 24 hours later, Trump landslide, wins everything. Comes back on TV and he's basically going, well, do you know what? It might have been wishful thinking on my part, but I can't be blamed for that because I'm a nice person and I want the best for the world. And it was like, oh, Jesus, mate, shut up. Come back on, say, I was a bit silly there, wasn't I? But you know, I wanted Harris to win that badly, it clouded my judgment. That'd have been an okay explanation. But he went on about, I was wrong and I was stupid because I'm such a nice man.
Because I'm such a nice... So it's sort of humble bragging, basically. Yeah.
I said those things because I'm better than everybody else.
Yes.
Because I just wish for the world to be a better place.
Well, the very fact that the little shit was able to boast about placing £100,000 bet shows how out of touch he is with the majority of the people in this country.
Didn't you place a bet at Manchester United for 20,000?
Yes, I did.
That turned out to be pennies.
Yes. And I lost it, yes.
And yourself 20 quid.
Yeah. But I noticed everybody took it, wasn't quite sure when I said it.
Apart from me, because I clocked you didn't say pounds.
Yes, so for our viewers, it's actually 20 quid, which unfortunately I lost. I can't remember what the bet was on now. I mean, these sort of little grotesques like Stewart, Campbell, Mateless, they are so out of touch, I think, with the fact he makes £100,000 bet, and then the fact he humble brags like that afterwards just gives you an idea that they are totally out of touch. I think, as you say, narcissists.
Echo chambers.
Yeah.
They only know people who agree with them.
Yeah.
They go to the same dinner parties, the friends all agree with them, they follow the same people on Twitter and Facebook or whatever, they read the same papers. And when you've all been given the same information and only that information, of course you think Harris is going to win by a landslide, because every bit of information you've been given, everything that you use to judge positions in the world and outcomes, it's all saying the same thing. Of course she thinks she's going to win. And the problem is you don't speak to anybody else.
It's interesting, I was out the other night, I forgot to tell you, but and I met a couple. I was with I'm careful to say where I was because I don't want anybody to be named or shamed, but I was with your friend, Mr. Red Pill guy, the one who you consistently call the coward.
I did a few times, but then it turns out he's trying to do something about it.
Yes,
so,
I think
it's not necessarily a coward. I was fighting back.
Yeah, but he when he texts me, he gets very upset about it.
You don't have to introduce me to him. You know
No. I don't want to, just in case there could be a scuffle. There could be a scuffle. But he had two friends who were around, and I was quite staggered because it's interesting what you're talking about. This confirmation bias. You're in your echo chamber. This couple were originally Corbyn supporters and used to go out actually on the street lobbying for Corbyn basically, and they've gone on a journey from being that to being basically totally awake now, and I was quite shocked because that's a long journey to make, isn't it? That's not a little journey like some of us have made. That's quite a long journey. But they have come from guarding Reid and Corbyn supporters to now kind of, like us, are totally awake, wanting Trump to win, knowing COVID's a nonsense, saying not zero's a nonsense. And I was quite shocked. I was quite staggered. I actually congratulated them. I said, you have come on such a fantastic journey. Well done.
I'm presuming they've been to university.
University graduates,
So that's where that came from.
Typically like me.
University, professional background, blah blah blah.
Correct. Yeah.
So what an interesting conversation with them would be. When did this start changing? What were the things you noticed that made you go, "Ooh, my worldview don't seem to be working out here"? Yeah. Was it COVID? Was it the authoritarian stance at COVID? Was it, they probably were anti-Brexit.
Yes, they were. Yeah.
Is it the high levels of crime? Is it immigrant? I'd be interested to know what was it?
I think it was triggered, speaking to the lady, I think it was triggered by COVID and her mother who was ill at the time of COVID and the treatment that she got in that time. I think that started the kind of journey for them. But then other things started to come in, probably like the
So COVID opened the door.
COVID opened the door.
Once the door opens, you start peeking inside. Going,
I think that's what's happened.
Look at all these things
Yeah.
We got told COVID was to save the country, and then when you find out it wasn't, and it was all mistakes and guesswork. Well, if I fell for that, what else have I fallen for?
Yeah.
So they started looking for
Yeah.
evidence then and found stuff.
Whereas I think Red Pill guy, who's their friend, I think he was always kind of Red Pill guy from the very beginning. I think he was always skeptical.
Yeah.
But the fact they'd gone from being indoctrinated at Corbyn level to all the way through was unbelievable to me. I was quite shocked, really shocked actually, because I've never been that far. When I was left, I wasn't anywhere near that left basically. But I was quite sad, and it kind of gave me hope.
And that's I've been saying to you now for nearly a year. I've always had hope because I know once things get worse, people's eyes will open because what they've been led to believe they'll be able to see isn't true.
Yes.
We can see now that diversity isn't our strength.
Yes.
So people can see that and I go, oh, I thought diversity was our strength. Well, no, it's not our strength, is it?
Yeah.
Multicultural is wonderful. Well, we can see now multicultural isn't wonderful.
Yeah.
So the lower we sink, the more people's eyes will open.
I think that's a really interesting point. And we're going to talk again about the Cresta Court in a minute, which is part of that. I just want to finish this section on the election by talking about The Guardian. We were just talking about The Guardian, that couple who were Guardian readers. Apparently The Guardian, and I'm sure our viewers have seen this, but they've offered counselling to their employees because of the Trump victory. Have you heard this?
I have, which is lovely because they're a caring company to work for. But they didn't offer any counselling when the Manchester bomb went off.
That's a really good
point. And The
point.
Guardian was founded in Manchester.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
They didn't offer any counselling when those 3 kids were stabbed to death in Southport.
Yeah.
No counselling for lots of other tragedies in this country. When the London bombing went off and, 50 dead, hundreds injured. No counselling then. But when a foreign person in a foreign country on a foreign continent in a fair democratic election wins, let's give our staff counselling now.
That's a really good...
Absolute pathetic woke nonsense.
That is a really good point, isn't it? Because all the events you just talked about happened in Britain to English, to British people, and were serious, horrific things. Both, the Manchester bombing, the London bombings, the 3 girls in Southport, these are all young children brutally murdered. Now those are the things that really, really are important and that really matter. But you're right, where was The Guardian then? That's a really good point.
And then following on from this, I might be one of your notes, following on with that with The Guardian, they've announced this morning, they've now left Twitter.
Oh, I did see that, yes, I haven't really...
Twitter is not a place for The Guardian. It's far right, hate, and we're not going to engage anymore on Twitter. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? But you may be back, because lots of people said they're leaving Twitter. BLM UK announced a couple of months ago, we're leaving Twitter. They're still tweeting every couple of weeks.
You can't. The thing is, if you want to know what's going on and you want to influence things, you've got to be on Twitter, haven't you?
Twitter is the platform if you're interested in politics. It's the only platform if you're interested in politics.
But we need to encourage these crappy left-wing organisations to leave Twitter anyway, don't we?
To leave.
The less of them on there, the better.
I want them to stay. I want them to leave, then come back so we can laugh at them.
Talking about opening doors and, glimpsing through and seeing the reality. The Cresta Court, we did a chat about the Cresta Court. It got a lot of views.
In Altrincham.
So just for our viewers who may not have seen, the Cresta Court is a hotel in the centre of Altrincham, which is a very middle class, upper middle class area, and it closed suddenly, and 300 male single illegal immigrants were put in there. We did a little bit about it last week. I've seen numerous since then.
Well, can I make an announcement? Last time I talked about how the people need to organise, set up Facebook groups, and someone has.
Yes.
And so you need to go on Facebook, you need to join this group, and it's called Altrincham Residents Migrant Discussion Page. Altrincham Residents Migrant Discussion Page. Go and join it and join the conversation and find out what's going on.
And I think there's nearly 1,000 people in that already. Have you joined that, Nick?
Yes.
Good. So just a reminder to our gentle viewers that Nick is prepared to get involved in this and make do some speeches or whatever is necessary. So I think that will be very powerful if that would happen. So we talked about it last time. We did a very brief thing on it. It's had a lot of views, and more's happened since then as well, as you would expect. So the MP there is now Labour MP. It used to be Graham Brady was the word we were looking for. Yeah. Graham Brady. The guy now is called Conor Rand, who looks like he's about 12.
Yeah. Not from the area. Comes from.
Not from the area.
He got parachuted in.
Yeah, he's like a trade union official or something. Yeah. So it looks bewildered, like a little bewildered child, basically. So he came with security guards to a meeting of concerned residents on the church. So there's a church directly over the road from the Cresta Court. There basically, and he's asked questions, and his responses were actually really kind of almost insulting. When he was asked certain questions, he said, "Oh, that's above my pay grade. That's a question for the Home Office." He said that the 12 months may be extended, as we've thought. He said there wasn't a curfew, so these guys can wander out any time. Then he said, "Oh, they're all vetted, so they're all okay." And one of the residents said, "Well, how are they vetted when you don't know who they are?"
They're vetted because everyone in application is asked the question, are you a criminal?
Yeah.
And if you tick no, you've been vetted.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
And so one of the residents actually said that. They said, how do you know they're not murderers? And he said, "Oh, they've been vetted." And he said, "Well, they could just say they're not murderers." Yeah. So his response to that was, "Well, anyone could do that."
Yeah.
So this is the kind of response we're getting from and apparently, as they filed out of the church, there's a wall because it's quite a low wall around the Cresta Court, and there was a woman walking her dog past the thing, and one of the asylum seekers engaged with her, and within earshot of everybody walking out, he then called her a slut at the time. So it's like, I mean, it's almost like a farce, this thing. Yeah. It's just, so clearly the residents are concerned as this resident thing, but I think hopefully their eyes are opening now as to what this is about, what Labour's about, what this uncontrolled migration is about.
Let me chip in here. I might upset some people from Altrincham now. I fully understand why people in Altrincham voted Labour and kicked out the Tories as MP.
Why?
Well, Tories needed kicking out. Tories needed
they did.
14 years.
No, you're right. They did need. It's a very good point.
Yeah, 14 years of crap. I get that, and we knew Labour were going to be worse. And I said to you, we have to accept that to get rid of the Tories because otherwise they don't learn. So I get all that. I looked on Trafford Council website the other day about who the local councillors are for Altrincham. 3 Green Party councillors.
Oh, I've heard that, yeah.
So Altrincham voted for the most lunatic party in the country. The Greens are not pink and fluffy. The Greens are lunatic communists. That's who the Greens are.
They're also very much associated with the Muslim community.
With the Palestine thing, but the Greens also want open borders. And actually say we want open borders. Closed borders is racist. So the fact that people of Altrincham over the last 3-4 years have only voted Greens at local elections, and you now have 3 Green councillors representing Altrincham. This is one of the reasons why you have that hotel, because the government's looking across the country going, where can we put a hotel that will attract the least amount of pushback?
Oh, that's interesting.
So Labour places is our number one choice because we can tell Labour council, shut up, do as you're told, otherwise you won't be an MP in a couple of years. We'll never let you sit as an MP. And then let's look at the local level. Who are the councillors? Greens. They love immigrants. So let's put a hotel where we have Green councillors. So to a certain extent, the people who voted Green at local elections in Altrincham brought this upon themselves. This is you being pink and fluffy, looking for virtue signalling points, not thinking would ever come down your street. It's on your street now, 300 potentially dangerous men in your area.
Yeah.
So the next elections coming in May, you need to work out who you're voting for. You need to maybe re-look at the Tories, look at Reform UK, look at independents. Some of these people should be standing as independents at the local elections in May. You can win elections on 800 votes. So use this as a catapult and use this as the main theme while you're running, and get some independents as local councillors in Altrincham, because voting Labour and voting Greens, you'll get more of this shit coming down the line.
Would you consider this standing as a councillor in? Can you do that, or do you have to live in the area?
No, anyone can do it.
Yeah. Would you consider standing as a councillor?
Would I know? Because you need a local person.
Yeah.
You need someone who understands the area, cares for the area. When I stood in Oldham, I learnt that lesson then.
But I think people are turning to you on this, aren't they, Nick? Because you're getting quite a lot of interest from people in comments asking you to highlight this issue. So it struck a chord with people, and I think you're in there somewhere. So I think if you stood as an independent councillor, I think you would get voted in. But you could also be then a very vocal voice about this, couldn't you? Because this is a very high-profile thing here.
It is. I think there'll be people in that area who will be better than me to stand for local council. If they decide to stand, contact me and you. We're quite happy to help promote them and stuff like that.
Yeah, we are.
But I think they'll be better. They're not short of quality candidates.
Yeah.
That place is full of doctors, solicitors.
It is, yeah.
So there'll be someone there who'll be better than me representing Altrincham.
So you think a lot of independents will stand?
I don't want loads of them, because they'll just take bits of votes off each other. We need to get a decent candidate who's independent, who uses this as the catapult to get elected by saying, I say no, I'm going to hold the Trafford Council to account, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. We say no in Altrincham for hotels like this, and I will spend all my time fighting this, all my time, and we want it gone. No extension of the year lease, we want it gone, and we'll fight, and that's what we need there.
Can I also say, for the people in Altrincham, the ones who voted for Labour, one of Labour's promises was to stop the hotels, the asylum hotels, wasn't it?
Yep.
So again, they've broken one of their promises immediately, and to their constituents within a few months of taking power, basically. So I think, people who voted Labour need to look carefully now what they're doing, or what they've done, and why they did it.
I think most people who voted Labour because they weren't the Tories.
Yes.
Let's be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And I don't blame people for that. The Tories needed punishing. Otherwise, this hotel probably would have been there if the Tories would have won.
Possibly.
Because we're not stopping illegal immigration. They need housing somewhere.
Yeah.
So it probably would have happened anyway.
Yeah.
So it's Tories and Labour to blame for this.
Now, one of the things they're doing, which is great, and I think you've commented on this. I think I saw one of your comments somewhere. They're taking these people in Cresta court, these illegal immigrants, 300. The government have managed to relieve pressure from the NHS here. And I don't know if you're aware of that, Nick. I don't know if you'd care to share how they've managed to do that for these. Because it's great, because obviously the NHS is under pressure.
Yeah.
300 additional people in that area could put pressure on the local health.
And that was one of the concerns local people had, was the NHS is failing anyway, and you've got 300 men, we don't know their histories abound, who have got medical conditions, going to come from poor countries, and the government have said straight away, don't worry about that. They will not impact the NHS because we're going to fund private healthcare for all of them. It's like, Jesus Christ, talk about not being able to read the room. Talk about not being able to read the room. We're not going to let it affect your shit NHS. We're going to let them go private and we're going to pay for it. You couldn't make this stuff up.
It's just absolutely stunning, isn't it? When they declare and admit these things, isn't it? So we stick 300 illegal migrants. We house them in a 4-star hotel. We feed them, we clothe them, we give them money, we give them phones.
Yeah.
And also to make sure you can go to your local NHS and wait 8 hours.
Yeah.
We're giving them private healthcare.
Private healthcare.
Isn't it fantastic? I mean, we are such a generous, caring country, aren't we? It's fabulous what we're prepared to do. I'm sure everybody in Altrincham is ecstatic about that.
This, I mean, it needs stopping. That's why we need a Trump in the UK. This needs stopping day one.
Yeah.
It should be day one, all these benefits end.
Yeah.
If a charity wants to come to the hotel and offer healthcare,
yeah,
fantastic. I don't want to deny people healthcare.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I ain't paying for it.
Yeah.
But if a charity wants to raise money and you know, you've got the doctors, you know, the French doctors of the frontier, whatever they're called, come and treat them fine. They're not going to stop you. You're not paying for it.
I thought it was actually quite symbolic that the meeting to complain about this was in a church. Don't you think that's quite kind of ironic, really? That people are going to a church now to complain or to try and marshal themselves against, presumably, and looking at the colour of these guys, I've seen a few of them sitting and squatting outside. I suspect quite a few of them will be Muslims or certain other religions as well. And I thought it was quite ironic that the meeting to protest this was taking place in a church.
And I think part of that reason might be we don't have it in a pub because we don't want those people drinking. They've come here to complain. We're not having them drinking.
Yeah.
So let's have it where there's no licence.
Yes.
I'm amazed I had it across the road from the hotel.
Yes.
I mean, that's symbolic.
Yes.
I thought that it'd be, you can't have it there. You need to move it so many miles down the road and have your meeting. And the fact it was up at the hotel is amazing. I'm not sure how many spaces there is in Altrincham, how easy it is to get a community space. But again, this wasn't a council organised meeting. I think this had been organised by the public, hadn't it?
I think so, yeah.
So, yeah.
There's a guy called Graham King. They call him the king of the asylum seekers, and apparently he's generating revenues of nearly £5 million a day from all the hotels that he has basically purchased and is housing the asylum seekers in. There's a lot of money being spent, and apparently, I just want to go through some stats now. There's currently 100,000 illegal immigrants in hotels around the country, and which is a lot of money. I think we know how much it's costing, £7 to £8 million a day. And just going through some of these stats, maybe for our viewers, I don't know if you can add to any of these. There are now 1.2 million illegal immigrants on our streets.
That we know of.
Which, and I was doing the maths here, somebody said that's 1 in 100, it's actually 1 in 40 people. So because there's 67 million people in the country now. So one in 40 people that you walk past is an illegal immigrant. In terms of foreign-born residents, and this is both legal and illegal in this country, so there's people who are not born in this country. Now, can you take a guess how many there are in the country? So we know there's 1.2 million illegal.
15 million.
You've been too pessimistic. It's 10 million. Or I believe it's 10 million. I've been told it's 10 million. You think it's 15 million?
Oh, I think it has to be more than 10 million.
Yeah.
More than 10 million. Was it 4 or 6 million EU residents who live here, registered to stay here?
Oh yeah, that's true actually.
And then we've had at least 10 million foreigners turn up here, and we've got at least 2 million illegals here we don't know about.
Yeah.
So those figures are way off.
Well, the published figures suggest there's 10 million.
Yeah.
But even that is staggering, because that means 1 in 6. It's 16% of the population. 1 in 6 of the population. 1 in every 6 people you walk past was not born in this country now. I think that is quite a staggering number, don't you?
Well, in Manchester, it's 1 in 3. In Manchester, 1 in 3 people in Manchester were not born in the UK.
Wow. Do people have an understanding of these numbers?
No.
Because I think, these are numbers that need to be shown to people very clearly. What I don't understand is why these are not discussed in the general election, the run-up to the general election, these numbers, because they are staggering.
Because nobody wants to be called racist.
And do you think we're still in that place now, or do you think we've moved on?
We're coming out of it.
Yeah.
Wait until the next general election. The next general election will be purely on immigration. Reform UK didn't want to have this last election on immigration because they would be tired with the racist.
So they steered away from
They
it.
stayed away from it as much as they possibly could. But the next election will all be about immigration. 2 points on this. So the first one is a gentleman you mentioned who makes £5 million a day on
Graham
hotels.
King.
I don't know how I feel on this. So you can't...
No, that's an interesting point actually, because I'll give you my thoughts after
You can't blame a legitimate businessman making money legally in a country. He's taking government contracts, stuff like that. But part of me then goes to myself, but you're killing the country I love, mate. You're part of the problem. When Second World War, Mercedes, Volkswagen, Mercedes, Hugo Boss, all worked with Hitler. And was that right? They made money with contracts. So I'm not sure how I feel on that. Is he putting making money ahead of the country? Should he be making a stand? Should he be rejecting these contracts? I don't know. I need to give it a lot more thought.
Well, I suppose the question is, if he did reject the contracts, somebody else would take them up, wouldn't they?
Well, and that's the case. As in, if you're fighting, expect to be punched.
Yeah.
If you're fighting to save this country, there has to be consequences to you. Otherwise, it's not a real fight.
Yes. Yeah.
Now he's only in charge of what he does.
Yeah.
Saying, well, I might as well kill all these Jews because if I don't kill them, another German company will get the contract to kill all these Jews in concentration camps.
I think there's a big difference between killing a Jew and housing in a hotel.
Sliding scale.
Yeah.
One's at the top of the scale, one's at the very bottom of the scale. It's putting finance over the love of the country and damaging your own country.
Yes. Yeah, I tend to side probably with the business side of it, and I think he's gone too far because he obviously knows something. He's obviously got himself in a position where he can dictate where he can get the contracts or whatever. So he may have gone too far. He may see an opportunity here that he thinks will only last a couple of years, and he thinks he'll take advantage of it. But he is a businessman and he's trying to make money, and this government is determined to stop businessmen making money. So in a way, there's a kind of an irony and a schadenfreude about the way he's approaching it. So I'm like you. I'm kind of ambivalent on this one. I think he wants to make money, and if I look across the businesses I'm involved in, we have government contracts. We have work with governments. We win work from the public sector. And you yourself met a gentleman recently, and we won't go say where, but who is making money from illegal immigrants. But you met him. He's a nice guy. His views are very centrist to right. He doesn't agree with what's happening in this country, but he's making...
I need to give it a lot more thought.
Yeah.
Because it's very complicated.
It's tricky, isn't it? Especially when you've met somebody recently who you can
No,
see...
that wouldn't impact me at all. It's a fact. It's legal.
Yes.
You've got a legal business
Yeah.
doing legal contracts with a legal government.
Yeah.
It's only because I don't like it. So it needs a lot more thought.
Yeah, I think it's not simple.
It's
I
not
agree.
simple.
Yeah.
My second point was, you just said then 100,000 legal immigrants are in hotels in the country. Rough sleeper in Manchester found dead this morning on the streets of Manchester City Centre. Can't give him a hotel.
No.
So sleeping on the street, dead outside the Palace Theatre this morning.
Yeah.
In Manchester City Centre.
Well, it's interesting you say that. My wife was Ireland. This problem is worse in Ireland. I don't know if you're aware in terms of the immigration. So my wife saw a clip on Irish TV, and it was an native Irish white single mother with 2 kids, homeless. Sitting next to her in the council or whatever was an African woman who was boasting, not boasting nastily, but boasting that she'd been given a house within a month of arriving in the country. So we are now prejudicing our own people to the benefit of people who were not born in this country, to the benefit of people who've been born, who've come here illegally, in all sorts of ways. The healthcare is an example of that.
It is.
The hotels are an example of that. You are guaranteed as an illegal immigrant to have accommodation, but there's a guy dying in Manchester on the streets.
Yeah, and that's because we don't want to be called racist. So they will say this isn't discrimination. We have a point system, and that African woman got more points because she's got 5 kids, you've only got 2. And she's vulnerable. She gets more points because she's an immigrant. She gets more points because she doesn't speak English. That makes you more vulnerable. So we've got to look after her even more. So they've got a point system that skews towards that, but it's all wrong.
We discussed it last time, didn't we? You know, a phrase my dad said, charity begins at home.
Yeah.
You've got to look after your own people first. Then, if you can afford to, you have the bandwidth and there's a capacity, you can potentially look after other people. But you've got to look after your own people first, haven't you?
Any citizen in any country should be treated better than a guest or an immigrant in that country. And I don't mean you treat other people poorly. I'm just saying you're a citizen of that country. If I come to your house, you're bound to treat your kids better than me.
And I think that's part of the reason, and again, the reason people voted for Trump. He is very clear. He's all about
America first.
America first. You know, that's a fundamental message of his, isn't it?
Yeah.
And people want to hear that. They've also heard about 10 million illegal immigrants coming into the States in the last 4 years, basically. You know, they want to know that they're going to be first. And I think that's a big reason they voted for Trump.
And for almost the whole of human existence, that was a perfectly acceptable thing to say. My tribe first.
Yeah.
Perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
It changed after World War II because of the Holocaust. So because the Germans, again foreigners, did something terrible.
Yes, the Germans are foreigners.
They
Nick.
are.
Yes, yes.
Did something terrible, we've all had to pay the price because now everyone is trying to ensure that we're not perceived to be like the Germans.
Just finishing off on this section, and then I'm conscious of time. We're coming nearly to the end. The London Assembly. Sorry, just in terms of cost. Now I want to talk about cost. We've talked about private healthcare for the 300 guys in Altrincham. There are now 1.7 million migrants claiming benefits. Were you aware of that number?
No.
Now that is a hell of a lot. That is a hell of a lot of people.
Well, what happened to migrants coming here to work and migrants add to our economic success?
Yeah.
You got 1.7 claiming benefits.
Yeah.
I'm sure at one point most migrants came here did work.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying we should have had them then. They were still a detriment to the country. But now there is no more gaslighting now that we need immigration because we'll be bankrupt, we won't have it.
Yeah, because
they're bankrupting us.
Yeah, we saw the data, didn't we? That for every £1 of tax they generate, they take £1.60.
Yeah.
Across the entire migrant community. So we know now it's a net massive cost to
a
this country.
low skilled immigrant in this country, if they live to 65, cost the taxpayer £500,000.
Yeah, horrendous. In Canada, which has a far smaller population than us, their population, they've opened their borders completely. They've gone completely woke. Their population increased by 1.3 million in 2023. That is how bad this can get if you don't control it. It's something like a 3% increase in population there, which is massive. Just to finish on something a bit lighter. I don't know if you're aware that Sadiq Khan, because of National Islamophobia Month, is promoting that people learn Arabic. I don't know if you.
I saw something. Yeah. Learn Arabic.
Do you know why he's said people should learn Arabic? I've seen him saying that people should learn Arabic. Is there any particular reason he is?
Well, Arabic is the language of Islam.
Yes.
So the Quran is wrote in Arabic. People recite it in Arabic. And he knew it'd be a way of winding people up during Islamophobia Month.
So some wag took the advert and then wrote in Arabic letters certain symbols, which basically, if you read them in English, just say "go fuck yourself," which I thought was absolutely brilliant. So Khan manages to make a fool of himself even at these times.
He doesn't care. You've seen what he's done with free bus passes and transport for London.
Yes. Oh, did I not mention that? Yes. No. Oh, so sorry. Yes. So the London Assembly. Yeah. Maybe you can tell our views about this. The London Assembly.
I don't think they've voted on it, or they're going to vote on it, or it's been passed yet. But they've put a proposal that all illegal immigrants in London get free transport because it's tough being a legal immigrant.
Yeah.
Which surprises me, because considering they've all travelled at least 5,000 miles, they're good at travelling.
Yes.
We don't need to fund them in London. They've just travelled 5,000 miles.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why we're having to fund them.
Again,
where the working man
Yeah.
can't drive into London, it's too expensive.
Correct.
Having to use public transport, he's funding it all himself to keep his job.
Yeah.
And someone turns up and they get free transport in London. Me and you won't get it.
Yeah. And that's worth apparently around, on average, about 15 quid a day.
Mm.
And how much would that benefit the Londoners, the true Londoners, the ones who work, who travel or whatever? But now illegal immigrants are being promoted to get free travel.
Lots of organisations do this. The English Heritage.
Yeah.
If you're an asylum seeker, show your asylum seeker card, free access to all English heritage sites. Everybody else pays 20 quid.
Mm.
You're asylum seeker, refugee, you get it all for free.
Scandalous.
Robbie Guy knows is in all of it.
So, I think that kind of neatly brings us to the end of this episode 54.
54.
Of The Mayor and I, Nick Buckley, MBE.
Buy my book.
Oh, sorry, yes, we haven't done the thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up, subscribe, comment.
Yeah. And in Altrincham, follow the Facebook group, Altrincham Residents Migrant Discussion page, and be part of that. They need help and support.
Nick Buckley, MBE, thank you very much.
Thank you.